Hi, everyone. My name is Jesse Robbins, and welcome to LPLE from Dialogue FM. We're the podcast that lets you practice listening in English. We speak English slowly and clearly so that you can follow along and understand native English speakers more easily. I'm excited to help you improve your English listening skill, as well as help you learn new vocabulary, grammar, and idioms commonly heard in conversations among native English speakers. If you want to practice listening in English, then we invite you to join our conversation. Hi, Jane.
Hi, Jesse.
It has been about 3 weeks since I last saw you.
I think that's right.
Yeah. And it has been a very active past 3 weeks. I posted a notice on the LPLE Facebook page, and one of our listeners responded, essentially guessing that the reason why I wasn't able to post new episodes or record new episodes is because I became a dad.
Oh, so exciting. And such a gorgeous little boy from all those pictures I've seen.
Thank you so much. We are absolutely in love with our young son, Vincent. We can say we are enamored. Is that a good word?
Yes.
We are absolutely enamored, which is another way of saying love with our new son. Before we talk about that part, it's worth noting that a week before my wife went into labor, we moved houses.
I know.
Yeah, right. So my wife imagine 3 weeks ago, my wife is very, very pregnant. She's big. And we are moving to a new house. I think we talked about that in a previous LPLE episode. And then 8 days after moving in, at 5:30 on Monday morning, the 24th, she gets up to use the bathroom. She uses the bathroom. She comes back to bed, immediately jolts up, and then she goes, oh no, oh no, oh no. She gets out of the bed, runs back to the bathroom. Now, I'm already awake at this time. And I could tell that she has just gone into labor. So I ask her from across the room, the other room, I ask her, dear, are you okay? And of course her answer was, I think my water just broke.
Yes.
That will wake anybody up. You could be in the deepest of sleep.
I can't believe it.
And your entire body wakes up and you go into active mode. You go into action mode. We wait for about an hour just to confirm that is the case. By about 6:30, we decide, we have to go to the hospital. So we quickly pack our clothes and other items.
But you must have had everything almost ready.
Nope.
No,
we had
you
nothing
just
ready.
Weren't expecting it.
Right.
So you just moved too.
Well, so
my goodness.
Correct. 1, we just moved. But 2, he came
a week and a half
2.5 weeks early.
Oh, 2.5.
Right.
Ah.
So the baby came 2.5 weeks earlier than expected. His due date was May 12th. So we just moved in. I was predicting he would be on time. My wife was predicting he would be late. Neither of us predicted he would come early. So we didn't plan for anything. Didn't prepare our bags, nothing. That we quickly prepare our bags because here, at least here in the States, specifically in Seattle, usually the mother stays in the hospital with the child for about 2 or 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
So 1 or 2 nights,
Yes.
2 or 3 days. I just learned from my Japanese friend that in Japan, the mother and the child stay in the hospital for 5 days.
Really?
Longer, yeah. Much longer. So as we're preparing our items, my wife is telling me, pack enough clothes for 2 or 3 days. Okay, no problem. So pack our things, drive to the hospital, and then she is trying to relax, and the nursing staff has been absolutely wonderful in taking care of her. Her contractions are getting stronger. It's at, I want to say 11 o'clock that night. Yes, 11 o'clock that night, she goes into active labor.
So she had already been there for some 30 hours, right? Or...
No, let's say for an entire day. So we got to the hospital at
right.
7 o'clock.
18 hours or
correct,
something.
Correct.
Yeah.
So 7 o'clock Monday morning, and then 11 o'clock Monday night is when it's now time. She has to actively push the baby out. The process takes about 1.5 hours, which is short for her and her family. My wife was originally very nervous about this part, the pushing, because both her mother and her sister have a history of long births.
Yes.
Luckily, it only took 1.5 hours to push, and then at 12:28 on Tuesday morning, April 25th, Vincent was born.
And you were right there,
I was there the entire time.
You got to see his head coming out.
Yep, I watched everything. I watched everything. Now, my wife and I are slightly better rested now than before, right? That was a very tiring experience, definitely for her. And there's a lot of emotion in that, right?
Oh my goodness.
But I tell you, for the first half an hour, my wife held the baby. My wife held Vincent.
Yes.
One of the new practices in medicine is immediately after the baby's born, the doctors and the nurses put the baby on the mother's chest.
Yes, that's what I've heard. Is that without even cleaning the baby?
Correct.
That makes sense.
Yep.
That's much more natural.
Exactly. They say it's healthier for bonding, emotional bonding. And that's exactly what happened here. Vincent was born, and then the doctors caught the baby. The baby came sliding out, and then immediately reached over to my wife, her arms are outstretched, eager and excited to hold her baby for the
And this
first
is
time.
the cord is not cut or anything, huh?
Not yet.
So he goes back to hearing the sounds that he's been hearing.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
And he's also absorbing the warmth of his mother's. The skin-to-skin contact is really important. So my wife is warm. The baby came from a warm place and then came into a cold environment, like it's a little chilly in the outside world, and then immediately is protected and cared for by the mother. So I didn't hold the baby for about half an hour. So about like 1 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday, is when the nurse asked me, after the nurse took the baby to measure the baby, weigh the baby, the nurse turns to me and asks, "Do you want to hold the baby?" And
the cord is still attached.
Oh
at
no!
this
So
point.
I'm sorry.
It's been tied off.
I cut it. I cut it.
Oh, you did.
So right after the baby came out, and the doctors put the baby on my wife's chest, the nurse asked me, "Do you want to cut the cord, the umbilical cord?" So I said, "Yes, of course, I'll do it." But now half an hour has passed, and the nurse turns to me and asks, "Do you want to hold the baby?" To which I say yes. And the gravity of the situation, the entire emotion that has been building up, not just that night, but for almost 9 months.
Right.
Maybe even before, right? When my wife and I decided we're going to have children. All of that emotion, that happiness, that excitement, that anxiety, that anticipation, all of those emotions came together at one time, and I just completely started crying. I fell apart. And I have no shame in saying that.
No, you shouldn't.
In fact, I would be surprised if I met a father who didn't cry during this time.
Yes, every father. Fortunately, fathers are allowed to be present, which they weren't 50 years ago. You know,
really?
And
I didn't know
it was
that,
very
actually.
unusual. And after the father's waiting out in the hospital waiting room, and finally the nurse comes in and says, "You have a daughter, or you have a son." Can you imagine? So it's every friend of mine who has been allowed to be present has felt the same way.
Yeah.
And exactly what you say, this recognition of huge responsibility, but joy at the same time. It's a
wonderful feeling.
Yeah.
I held Vincent, my son, in my arms. And it's hard to describe. And every friend I've talked to who has a child said the exact same thing. You will not know that feeling until it happens to you.
It happens.
They can try to describe it. There's plenty of words in the English language to describe that feeling, and it has to happen to you to feel it. Now, here we are at going on 14 minutes. So what I'd like to do is start talking faster, go into normal speed. So for our listeners, if you want to practice your English listening skills, you can continue to listen to this part of the conversation. We're going to keep on the same topic, but I would like to change the direction of the topic, and something I think you'll like here. If we go too fast, remember, you can always listen again from the very beginning, and then eventually start to listen to the faster parts, which is where we are now. All right, so
here we go.
Yeah, here's the thing that I wanted to talk to you about specifically. I'm glad I watched the baby being born. I'm really glad. For many reasons. But for one reason I didn't expect, I left the room feeling like women are the modern day superheroes. Like,
this is what I've heard my male friends say. They can't believe how much the woman can tolerate.
Yeah.
And for how long.
Yeah.
I've had my male friends who've been with their wives say the same thing.
Blew my mind.
Where do they get that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's magical. It's special. It's awe-inspiring. And it's also frustrating in that you get that much more angry at the way just globally women are treated. That makes sense.
Yeah.
My wife, bless her heart, I love her to death. She kindly accepted my proposal to marry her, and she decided that I am worthy enough to have a child with. So in many ways, she has elected to go into this process with me and endure all the pain and all the suffering. Mm-hmm. Right? That's essentially it.
That is true. Yeah, that's true.
How do men not see that as an honor, like as something that, like, to be selected for that, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
How? I guess what I'm getting at is, after seeing a woman give birth, I just got so angry that women are still treated poorly around the world.
Do you know, I had this thought today, which I just think women, I think it may have more to do with fear of women at some very primitive, unexamined level, and that men who, for whatever reasons, don't think about it. I think there's a fear because there's an understanding that there are capacities there that, well, men might not have and don't know about, and they don't know how women tick particularly. So there's a fear, and people deal with fear in all sorts of different ways. And if they can diminish the fear in some way, then they will. And I think there's another thing, too, that because women can handle a great many things at once, and their first attention is going to be to their children or the well-being of those around them. I mean, even if they're not particularly nice people, women tend to do that, even if they're bitches. Just, even if, not every woman is lovely and nice.
Right.
Even if they're not particularly nice people, there's still this training and this capacity to deal with others. So even dealing with bad treatment is something that we've probably got more capacity for than other people. So I don't know. I was thinking about it today for some reason that I don't know why, was that it probably has more to do with fear of the unknown than with just a basic lack of respect for women. Does that make sense
Absolutely.
at all?
Yeah. There's this element of we can't, men, so going along with that theory, right? Men cannot match that capacity. So they try to elevate themselves in ways where they can say women cannot match that capacity.
Yeah, I think that makes some sense. Yeah.
So overcompensating might be a word for it. I'm not exactly sure.
Possibly, but I think now there are men who get it just the way you do.
Yeah.
And they just get it the way you do. But it hasn't been fashionable until the last 10 or 20 years for men to start paying attention in those ways. Yeah. And so there are a lot of people that they may be overcompensating, but they're not very conscious. I think it's a level of consciousness that hasn't been there. But certainly the men I've known who have wanted to participate in their wives, the delivery of their children, have all said exactly the same thing in different words. That first of all, the tremendous gravity and awe of having the child, and then how do they do it? About the woman, how do they do it? Yeah.
Now, you and I like to talk about politics a lot, and we come from practically the same political viewpoint.
I think so, yeah.
So I think as it relates to world leaders, I'm very happy that we have one responsible adult in the room, which is Chancellor Angela Merkel of Germany.
Yes.
And she is the most powerful person in the world, the most powerful world leader right now, and the most powerful woman in the world. That's my understanding from a political standpoint. And it's... I never want to come across as saying I did not have respect for women before, and now I just magically have it.
No,
That's not it, right?
I know you. I know you have had it before.
Now that we have this situation where Trump is the president, I'm glad that there is a woman in charge. Especially having seen the amount of the capacity that a woman can take through the lens of watching a child being born, I have a greater understanding of a woman's capacity to take on many different challenges. And I'm now glad that there is a woman in charge of the free world in Angela Merkel, because we need that right now.
Thank you for saying that. And I guess it's no surprise that our president behaved like a real boor when he met her. Even if he had the ability to understand it, I don't think he could bear to understand what a gulf there is in terms of ability, of stature, of substance. He would come out so much the loser, it would be humiliating.
Chancellor Merkel has become that much more of an icon, a role model, and I hope that comes out more, that she is elevated to icon status, to role model status. Even more. I think that here in the States, we only hear about Chancellor Merkel in response to something that she has said or done in relation to what we're doing.
Or to some extent with the refugee issue.
Yeah. I'd love to learn more about her status as a role model and an icon in Germany. But also globally, how do people view her? I hope that it's the start of seeing more women leaders in politics, and it just makes me that much more frustrated that we missed our chance.
Yeah, so true. There will be someone. I certainly hope it certainly will be in your lifetime. But in my lifetime, darn it. Yeah. I'd like to have it happen in my mother's lifetime, but my mother's 92, so I'm not sure she's going to get that opportunity. But I love the way you put that. I haven't thought of it in those terms, and of course we've talked about this before, if not on the microphone, together, about how women don't necessarily value other women quite enough. So, thanks.
Yeah. I will repeat that compliment. I'll shout it from the mountaintop or shout it into a microphone and let our listeners hear it. I really do hope that we start to see more women leaders, their capacity. If it wasn't made known and apparent beforehand, go watch a child being born, and then you'll understand just how much they can take on and still be amazing and do amazing things when given the opportunity. And maybe to say given the opportunity is kind of a weird way to put it. Because women on their own right can seize opportunities where there are none, and that's essentially what kind of has to happen here nowadays. Is when not given an opportunity, I look forward to reading stories of women taking the opportunity for themselves,
making it in some way.
Yeah,
it's interesting. I think something that a friend of mine, another male actually, has said. He thinks that part of what Hillary Clinton did wrong, was that she kind of went at it more from the standpoint of an old boy, in a sense, using more male models. I haven't examined this too much, but the idea made sense to me. And he said probably if she had used a more sort of the way women get done in their normal lives, perhaps if she had used more quote unquote feminine ways to do it, she might have been more successful. I don't know what I think about that, but he said it's not that she was a woman, it's that she was a woman using male techniques. Don't know, but I thought that was an interesting idea. And what I loved was his idea that it was time for a different point of view.
Yeah.
Kind of like what you suggested, finding opportunities where there aren't any.
Yeah. And taking it for themselves. Mm-hmm. So I we're approaching minute 26 here, and I just want to say that I'm glad and very thankful that I have the chance to relive this story with you. I've been wanting to talk to you about this for a long time.
I'm loving hearing it.
There will be many stories to come. And I hope the listeners, too, you guys enjoy this story. We're still going to be recording. This is still something you and I both really enjoy doing. If anything, it's a great chance for us to, two people with shared points of view and values to get together and talk. But it's good to be back. It's good to see you, Jane. And I guess we'll reconnect next week with some more fun stories.
Looking forward to it. And have a great week and get some sleep if you can.
Yeah, I'll try. Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of LPLE. Let's practice listening in English from Dialogue FM. Subscribe to LPLE on iTunes to hear the latest episodes, or listen to past episodes on our website, dialogue.fm. That's dialog.fm. If you have questions or comments about English, or if you would like for us to use a word, grammar, or idiom in our conversation so you can learn how to use it correctly, we would love to hear from you on Twitter at dialogue.fm or Facebook at facebook.com/dialoguefm.